The New Day, are they done? They are a week out from their big 10-year anniversary. Will they make it to the big celebration? We're going to talk about that and more on today's episode of WrstlXtra.
Yo, this is WrstlXtra. I'm your boy A Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate, always joined by my trios team, the Real House of Black Mex, the WrestleManiac, if you will, Yeet, and of course, the omnipresent man. Say his name, he will appear. The grateful Gerard Bonner.
Yo, that's good. That's good. Wow. Woo-wee.
Oh Lord! Just to give a little bit of context for you guys, we were talking just before we started. Gerard was asking us British folks, when do we do Thanksgiving? We said, "Oh, we don't. It's not what we do. It's not something that we do." Oh, so you guys are ungrateful? Oh, oh, is that how you feel, sir?
Just ungrateful. We're the British. Y'all all came from us, so yeah. Y'all should be thanking us.
It seems as though Gerard is probably the Kofi Kingston.
Oh, well done.
If any of you didn't see Raw last night, of course we saw that whole exchange after Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods lost to Alpha Academy in a tag team match. And the truth came out. It was a very interesting, very heated, intense, and honest exchange of words by both men. Kofi finally kind of saying his truths and saying to Xavier Woods that he just isn't good enough and question the reason why he had never won singles gold. And that everything that he has won, including the King of the Ring, was because of him. Gerard, I'm going to come to you first for this one. Just what was going through your mind as you saw this thing play out? Of course, the argument kind of started in the ring. They've headed to the back, gone through Gorilla, got to the back, and then boom. Both of them just laid it out.
Yeah, it was shock and awe because we have never seen them this intense before. Consider the fact they lost to Alpha Academy in 2 minutes or less. Like, it was one of the most unbelievable things I've ever seen. And I think what made it worse is Tozawa is who got the pin. No knock to Alpha Academy at all, but it felt like Full Gear. Nobody in the world would have ever imagined Tozawa pinning Xavier Woods in 2 minutes flat, but that's what happened. And so as I'm watching this exchange, let me first say, I'll get to the technicalities and then I'll get to the feelings. Technically speaking, it's one of the most brilliant things WWE has ever done. I mean, think about, they followed the conversation from the middle of the ring straight to the back. This wasn't one of those things where we get to commercial and then we get to the locker room and now we have this, curated conversation. This was done in a tunnel. And I don't recall them ever shooting anything in that tunnel, in that tent area. So that was special. Secondly, it's what we all would do. None of us would wait till we get to the locker room to have that conversation. It would happen very organically. And then there was a moment where it switched from, I'm watching wrestling, to, I can feel these guys, because we've all had the friend who we have walked alongside, who we have, really tried to help navigate through rough waters. And then they keep blaming us. and we've held back on what we wanted to say because we feared it would hurt their feelings. We feared it might crush them. And then it just gets to a boiling point and it all comes out. That's what happened last night. And it was the first time that you could see Kofi really angry. And this built up in Kofi for a while. And it started making me think, like, you've been holding on to this for a long time, sir. And you were hoping to never have to say it. But now you're at this point where you say it. And then, I mean, and we've also been there too, in those relationships when you love deeply and you start throwing daggers. There are things you have hidden in your back pocket that you say, I'm never going to pull that out. I'm never going to pull it out. When Xavier pulled out the fact that you didn't become a world champion until I got here. And then Kofi is like, wait, I was a Hall of Famer before you got here. Whoa. We have never heard Kofi come out of his bag like that. He was like, don't twist it. I know who I am. And so when you get into those intense discussions with people where sometimes you have to end up like Kendrick Lamar and pop off and remind them who you are. And they literally Kofi was like, don't forget. But then it was like Xavier pulled out the thing that you never mentioned. You mentioned Kofi losing the world title in 6 seconds. The daggers they were throwing. And so, yeah, in terms of how I felt, it was one of those things. And I don't know if, excuse me, I don't know if our Caucasian friends do this, but I know in melanated circles, arguments go down just like that. They are just that intense. They are just that heated. And perhaps the only thing that stopped this from being worse was that it was televised, because some people might have thrown in some more colorful language. And but the intensity is what was it was amazing. It was amazing. I literally probably watched it 4 or 5 times because it was just like, I can't believe I saw this. And I feel every bit of it. Like it was everything. It was everything. Everything. I don't know how they come back from this. I don't.
What was also interesting, and I don't know whether this was a mistake or this was done purposely. Either way, it was brilliant. It was right at the end when Kofi said, "See you at the reunion."
Yep.
And Xavier was like, "The anniversary."
Yes.
I was like, interesting. Interesting indeed. Mex, what were your thoughts as you watched this whole thing? And we now know that the anniversary is happening next week on Raw. Is there anything that you expect to seeing happening, or something that we probably haven't thought about could possibly happen?
I don't know. This was excellent. Just like everything Gerard has said and laid it out perfectly. Like it takes 2 people that are very close friends that can pull this off. Like you can expect to see this segment amongst Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Like and their level of relationship has always been documented. Whereas we know these 2 are friends in Kofi and Xavier, but it's never really been shown on WWE TV the level of their friendship or the inner workings of their relationship. So for them to be kind of going at it, and obviously they'll probably walk through that curtain and just be dapping each other up and thinking, oh yeah, we smashed that sort of thing. It takes a level of understanding to be able to pull that off, and no person actually feels a way to each other afterwards, sort of thing. Kofi, the highlight was Kofi telling him, boy, I was a main eventer before you showed up. I jumped out of my chair. I was like, talk your S. Talk your ish.
Yes.
Because Xavier Woods, like when he came from TNA, I wasn't the biggest fan. He's won me over since. But I was happy that Kofi didn't just let himself kind of give Xavier all the accolades in obviously the New Day success sort of thing. But yeah, fantastic segment. I mean, what I've been predicting all along is that there will be no split, that it would be Big E just coming, mending fences, and they pick up from where, you know, they were, maybe go on to win another championship as a tag team. But I can't lie, after watching yesterday's episode, I just don't know if that's even possible. I think last week I kind of changed my tune a bit, and I thought, you know, I still don't think there'll be a split, but I thought maybe they both turn heel. Maybe they turn on Big E. They take out their frustrations on Big E. Since Big E seemingly, you know, it seems like he's done. His in-ring career might be as good as done. Whatever happens next week, he's going to be at the center of it, because as an audience, we all know this is an injured guy. He's not ring ready or whatever. Whether it's going to be Kofi that lays the hand or Xavier, someone is striking Big E next week. Someone is going to... Big E's leaving on a gurney, put it like that. And I think that takes, if not both of them, I think this is what takes them to the next level of dastardly, as no, they've lost control. Like, Big E is the one person, now that they're throwing these bombs at each other, the two of them, Big E's the one person that the crowd still has an alliance to, that he hasn't done anything, he hasn't said anything out of pocket. He's going to be caught in a crossfire next week. And whether that is to elevate one of these men into a heel position, if not both, like I say, yeah, I think that's what happens. But I still can't see a split. But Big E is going to be at the center of whatever goes wrong with this.
I completely agree that Big E is definitely going to be the center. He's going to come in, as you said, you said it perfectly, in the sense where he hasn't done anything wrong. We haven't seen him on TV in terms of, in ring or anything around the ring. Yes, you've seen him on pre-shows and post-shows and stuff like that, but not on the main show in a very long time. And both Kofi and Xavier have now said bad things, hurtful things to each other and all of that kind of stuff. So it kind of puts us in this position, a beautiful position as a viewer, where we're like, all right, which one of them is going to turn? Which one of them is going to, throw hands, and all that kind of thing. And it's so open. Whereas when it all started, we were all like, yeah, Xavier Woods is going to turn heel. He's going to do so and so. He's going to do this. After what Kofi did yesterday and the things that he said and his demeanor and everything, I'm like, it could be him. It could be him. He could be like, right, I'm done with this now. I've won everything. I've done this. I've done that. I'm the one that everyone's going to talk about. I'm the one who was center of attention. Kofi Mania and all the rest of it. I'm done. I'm doing this on my own. And here's the other thing as well to remember. When the New Day have won their championships, most of those championships were Woods and E. It was those two for a very long time. So again, that could possibly be thrown in the mix if we see Kofi turn, and that could be something that he uses. It's a beautiful position to be in. We've got this whole celebration to have about 10 years. But then we've had this whole thing boiling over for the last 2 months or so, and it could go anywhere. There's even the possibility of Big E turning on both of them. It's not impossible. It's not impossible. He could come back and be like, I don't like what you two are doing. I'm done. I've had enough of you. Something like that could happen.
Can I just add quickly?
Go for it.
That would be perfect if it leads to his coming back to the ring.
Yeah.
Because if he's not coming back to the ring, then how do we pay that off? But if it's him to kind of beat them both up, say, I'm leaving the New Day, I'm doing this on my own, I'm medically fit, we're in for a time. If we can't pay it off, then there wouldn't necessarily be a point in that.
And there's not been a definitive, I'm not coming back. There's not been that.
Right.
Everything that he said, in terms of in ring, has always been, I'm just waiting. I'm making sure I'm 100% healthy, making sure this. He said about his neck's feeling better. He doesn't have the pains anymore and all that kind of stuff. But it's still kind of a fear of the possibility of it going wrong at any point. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's impossible that he returns to an in-ring capacity. And I think that's still a strong possibility with this happening. We thought it was going to happen. When was the first time? I think it was it this time last year? Or something like that, or the Royal Rumble.
It might have been Rumble.
Yeah, where we thought he was going to come back, and it was possible. Apparently, there was plans made for Mania for him as well. All of that was talked about. So it's not like it's impossible. It's not like they've tried to fit him in, try to write him in and all the rest of it. I think he's probably just held out, mainly out of a very out of a fear. And it's possible. So this thing could go absolutely anywhere. And as we say on here all the time, that's the best part of wrestling, is when it's unpredictable and the outcomes are all possible, all make sense, all have a good turnout, regardless of how it happens. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited, and I'm glad to be excited about something with the New Day, because we haven't been for like maybe 3-4 years.
Yeah.
Let's be real. And I think that's the best part of it. So whatever happens, and if the intensity and the reality or the realism of the exchange that happened yesterday can come out in some way next week, and the exchange between all three, it's gonna be something special. And when you said it, Max, about like after they've done the segment and the cameras turned off them and all the rest of it, you know for a fact those two guys have gone to each other. That was amazing. We've done it. We smashed it. Like, they're excited for what's gonna happen next week, and it's that part that I'm very much excited about. Gerard, go on.
Sorry, I was just gonna say. So Gerard had said, obviously, we don't see often that the usage of the tunnel. They started these long tracking shots within the last year and stuff, but kind of seemed these promos in, I guess, these realistic places, a little cubby hole where it's not the men's locker room or anywhere, like not gorilla position. It's just some awkward place in between. Right. Last time we saw this actually used was WrestleMania weekend, if you guys remember. Sami Zayn coming out to face Gunther, who was waiting for him. Kevin Owens. Yes. Kevin Owens to G him up, go get the job done. The following night, the other way around, Sami Zayn waiting there with his IC belt that he had won the night one, telling Kevin Owens, now go and win the US title. Obviously, Kevin Owens didn't win. But at the same time, look, I just remembered that. And the parallel I gave earlier was the relationship between Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Like, exactly, you're just finding these little places to have that moment with your, I guess, your soul partner in this case. And it just works really well.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Gerard, I was going to ask, like, in your mind, do you see where this whole exchange in terms of, the celebration, the 10-year celebration could go?
There's so many directions that it could go, and that's what makes this interesting. I don't see this going in the direction of they stay together and live happily ever after. I mean, they may come back together after a while, but this is the perfect storm for Xavier to finally get his solo run with whatever attitude he may have. This is also the perfect storm for for Big E to be able to announce his return, if that's indeed where we're going. There are so many possibilities with this. I will say that this kind of feels like watching a couple celebrate their anniversary, and it's tense. It's uncomfortable to watch, yet and particularly if they're a public couple, right? If they're a public couple that they either, have some brand together, maybe, they lead an organization or something, and they have to try to keep it together. Almost like, I don't know if you guys watched Scandal back in the day, but a show like Scandal where you're watching, the president and the first lady know that they have to keep it together for this interview, but they just literally before said we're getting a divorce. I mean, like, it's that kind of thing. Can they keep it together long enough to get through this anniversary, knowing that people are going to celebrate them. I'm curious who comes out of the woodwork to celebrate them. Do they have videos of people, saying, hey, this is my favorite team? Do they bring family members out? Do they the ways that they could go? For instance, Big E has been very public about his new relationship. Does she come out? I mean, obviously the connection to Mia Yim would make it make sense, right? Does Kofi bring his family out? Does Xavier, do whatever? The possibilities are endless, because I think they're going to pull on our heartstrings next week. And I personally am loving the fact that we can attach the term cinema to something other than the bloodline.
Yes.
This is cinema if we have ever seen it. And I'm sitting here dialed in. It's crazy when you think about, we're talking Survivor Series. This is the go-home show for a Survivor Series. There's War Games to talk about. And all we can talk about right now is the New Day, who's not even on Survivor Series. There's a part of me that's wondering, will Big E be doing the panel this weekend for Survivor Series? Somebody's going to ask him. It's a guarantee.
True.
Leading into month. I mean, the possibilities are endless. And I am here to watch whatever happens, because it's going to pull at our heartstrings. They're going to replay Kofi Mania. They're going to replay Big E winning the world title. They're going to replay those tag title wins and all the fun moments. And something is going to pop off, and it's going to be pure cinema. It really will.
It's going to be very interesting.
I was going to say there was some what do I call them? The AEW diehards. Let me just keep it PG and call them that. They were very appreciative of WWE's efforts in character building, especially after this past week. A lot of stuff I had seen online about, this is pretty much how early AEW Dynamite was. Every episode you'll get some level of character arc and some, development to somebody or storyline or something. Whereas that's not really the case anymore, and it's more so just the matches. Whereas now WWE, 5 years on, have now adopted that, and you're seeing that more and more, and that's what's kind of keeping the crowd intrigued. Very much so. I was speaking to someone about this morning, and they were like, "Oh, but I think this is it's mid-card stuff." I said, even WWE would probably call this mid-card stuff for them, as they're kind of promoting War Games and stuff right now. But look at the greatness happening in the mid-card, even if it is mid-card stuff. You see what I mean? Right. So, it's important at all levels of the card. We're developing stuff, and I'm happy they've left this as well till next week, because like they've been doing with the pay-per-views, anything that gets left off the actual PLE, they kind of bookend the weekend with it, or start the next week with it, like the big angles and stuff like that. So yeah, as opposed to kind of celebrating it this week, where they could have, because I think the anniversary is later on this week by date. But yeah, they've left it for the big angle going into next week, so that's good.
Yeah, of course. I think it's we're at this place again, because the last time it was similar to this was probably the Attitude Era, where every position on the card had something that you were invested in, had a storyline that you couldn't wait to see next week, or the outcome of, or the next chapter of, and all the rest of it. So again, to see this happening with the New Day, it doesn't matter to me that they're kind of stuck. And it's not even like they're stuck in the mid card. They're actually stuck in the mid card of the tag team division. So that's like below the mid card, really. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, we're still so invested, and and I think that's the beautiful thing, because I mean, we've still got this whole thing with the Wyatts and Final Testament. We've also, we've mentioned already, we've got the Bloodline stuff. We've got this whole thing now with the ladies involved in the War Games match as well. And to move on to that whole thing as well now, we saw Jade Cargill laid out on the hood of a car, bloodied, windshield broken, discombobulated, and she had to get rushed to hospital. So the big question now is who attacked Jade Cargill. We saw the scenes as Bianca Belair was in her triple threat match for the Women's United States Championship. Bianca Belair's deserted the match to go and help her friend, to go and find out what's going on, as Jade was taken away in the hospital. What is the theory here? I've seen so many things. The obvious thing is it's one of the ladies from the opposing team, that being Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, and Candice LeRae. Any of those 5. But it's been interesting to see that there's been a theory that it could be Naomi, it could be Bayley. It's interesting when it comes to Bayley. Is Bayley assisted Bianca Belair last night on a Raw to defeat Nia Jax, giving her team the advantage in the War Games match. We've seen Bianca in the back, stressed, angry, arguing with the rest of her teammates. It's all happening. We're talking about pulling heartstrings and arcs and angles and outcomes and whatnot. Mex, what is your theory? Let's have a game of Cluedo right now, because I'm just like, who did it? Can we kind of list a few names and the reasons why, or what advantage they may have in taking out Jade Cargill?
Well, firstly, obviously this has been done to kind of cover up what they're saying is a real injury, potentially a quite serious injury for Jade Cargill, where she could be out for as little as 3 months or up to 1 year. So hopefully she makes a good, healthy, speedy recovery from that situation. But they've built it into storyline now. And yeah, I think I put out over the weekend a video on my Instagram. I had mentioned Bianca Belair is not exempt from this. They kind of started planting seeds between the two and stuff like that. It would kind of need a lot of justification as to why Bianca would do that, I would think. But she's a suspect. Bayley, I think, could definitely be a suspect to get onto the War Games team. And obviously then we saw her kind of showing loyalty to Bianca, which Bianca seemed a bit warm to by the end of Raw. Naomi could be a jealous party in all of this, a member of the big 3, but hasn't necessarily done anything big herself. So maybe a bit of jealousy, and she's acting on that. I had also thrown in there Charlotte Flair. As a means to get back into the fray. Charlotte Flair again was one of her last sightings before she went off injured, was coming face to face with Jade Cargill when Jade Cargill had first turned up. She might have done it as a means to get herself into the US title tournament in Jade Cargill's slot. So I think it could be one of these names. I've seen a theory, which I do like as well, of it being Naomi, and Naomi starting her own big 3 with Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. So Lash Legend would have basically been the hitman and taken out Jade. I think that could work pretty well. But yeah, right now I wouldn't say there's anyone closer than maybe that we can maybe draw upon, unless Gerard's gonna hit a home run here.
I don't know that I have a home run to hit on this. I've really been trying to think it through. I do think this is interesting, though, and I don't know if you guys saw this, but over on X, as all these people were talking about these theories, Naomi did a poll saying, "Do you think I snuffed my sister Jade?"
Really?
The results are wild. because let me start here. Oh, almost 33,000 people voted. 54% said no, which means 46% said yes, to the point where she said, these numbers are insane. I'm thinking about deactivating my account. It's wild that Naomi would do a post like this. That's wild. And it's up right now for those who think I'm just making this up. So it's amazing that she would do that based on the scuttlebutt that people have had. I don't think that Naomi has that in her to do. She's such a loyalist, considering how loyal she is to Bailey. Why would she turn on Jade like that? Even knowing that Bailey and Bianca aren't all that cool, and yet she's the friend of the friend, the friend of the two friends who don't like each other. Yeah, it's Naomi. So I don't see her, but I like the possibility of Charlotte, and I actually like the possibility of Lash on her own, apart from this big three. But Lash is part of this metaphor situation, remembering how they went to war with Jade and Bianca, and Lash really trying to establish herself as, the powerhouse, the Amazon of all things SmackDown. I like that concept. But again, like we just mentioned with the New Day story, I like the fact that the possibilities are so many that almost anybody could fit this bill and it would work. I mean, you could argue a Piper Niven could do something like this potentially. This strangely enough takes me back to another mysterious, dare I say, hit and run that happened right around Survivor Series for one Stone Cold Steve Austin, where we couldn't figure out who in the world did it. And then we found out that they did it for The Rock. So who knows? Maybe somebody did it for The Rock, to take out Jade. I don't know. Stranger things have happened. But another mystery that we have in WWE, and I think these mysteries under the watch of Triple H have potential to be really, really impressive. So, yeah, I'd give it to Jade. Excuse me, not Jade. I'd give it to Lash, Charlotte, or maybe Nia Jax. I mean, that makes sense as well, just to eliminate somebody else from the fray.
I think it's not just necessarily to do with the War Games match, but more so to do with the US tournament.
Sure.
The US Championship tournament, definitely. And for me, I think a Lash Legend would fit that bill a little bit more. I would love it to be Charlotte Flair. I'm a massive Charlotte Flair fan. Always wait to see when Charlotte Flair comes back and how she does and all the rest of it. But I do feel as though, as much as we can make sense of it, in terms of their exchange before, earlier this year or when it was, we can make sense of it in that respect. But I just feel as though the United States Championship, even though it's, whoever wins becomes the first one, I just feel as though that's beneath for Charlotte Flair. Whenever Charlotte Flair comes back, she always comes back literally straight in to a title match.
Yeah,
straight away. So I don't think it's that. That would be the reason why I don't think it would be Charlotte Flair. But I think the Lash Legend part fits the bill in a big way, in a very big way. It's her kind of, we see it a lot of times with the younger wrestlers and stuff when they attack someone that's been in the game for a bit or has a title or something like that. Yes, Jade isn't kind of one of those heavily experienced wrestlers and all the rest of it, but she's holding a title. She's holding a title that Lash has tried to come for and was unsuccessful. It makes a statement in terms of, for Lash, they're also very similar in their build, in their background, in all of that kind of stuff, all the comparisons that we've done between those two already. And I think it's a brilliant way for her to establish herself, come into the whole United States title picture, as well as the main roster, and be a strong contender, strong favorite to be the first ever Women's United States champion. With all of that said, we now know Jade's not going to be in the match. We're seeing the possibility or the strongest outcome being Bailey being a part of this War Games match.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from that, my question is now what happens with the Women's Tag Team Championship? We've seen it many times. Rhea Ripley was probably the most recent one, but we've seen it so many times where people holding championships get injured. They're injured for 3 months or more. Title has to be relinquished. Of course, now with the Tag Team Championship, it's not just one person. Bianca Belair is involved, who is at full power. What happens with the Women's Tag Team Championships next?
They drop it. It has to be relinquished. And excuse if I come across a bit cynical in it, especially the last few weeks with her going to battle with Io Sky on a couple of occasions. Bianca Belair is a star. And she has been doing, I guess, what the company want of her to kind of help Jade acclimatize and all of that kind of stuff, and to put them both on a pedestal, to put the women's tag titles on the pedestal. But coming into, the beginning of the road to WrestleMania now, I'm sure even to a degree, Bianca Belair might be counting her stars that, she's got this now lease of life on her own again. And this is where you want to see your top talents in these, of course, it's come at the expense of Jada and the injury, but Bianca Belair coming into WrestleMania season, setting herself up on a singles program. This is what I want. I'll speak for myself. This is what I want to see. So, I think I feel like I was shortchanged last year when I went to Philadelphia and I saw her as part of the big three. As amazing as that was, I felt like there was a story with Tiffany Stratton going into WrestleMania that they could have told and never really come back around to. And I think that would have been good for both women. Both women are great in-ring performers, but especially this year where currently, there's no Mercedes, there's currently no Becky, there's no Charlotte Flair. This is the next brigade, the Rheas, the Biancas. These were the next ones through the door following the horsewomen. So we need them fighting and firing and fit on all cylinders. And I'm upset that the Women's Tag Championship again doesn't have a feel-good ending or doesn't continue in the way it should. I wish they would have now dropped it to Lash and Jakara, and they could have went off into NXT with those titles. Of course, they can win them now, but there would have been something with them beating Jade and Bianca for it. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to the positives of Bianca Belair hopefully getting into maybe a title picture or just some individual feuds going into WrestleMania. And it's been something that she said she wants to see women have just feuds going into WrestleMania, not around any titles or any of these new titles they're creating. So if she could be at the center of maybe just a one-on-one feud going into Mania, I think that would be really good.
For sure. One of the things that I thought about, we were kind of going back to this whole whodunit as well, and then looking at the possibility of what happens with these championships. If it was Naomi, for example, this is the example I'm going with. If it was Naomi, one thing they could have done, or that could be done, is that Bianca is told she has to relinquish. She fights her corner. She's like, no. I've got a partner. I've got a friend. Blah, blah. It's Naomi. Naomi comes into the fray. They lose the championships, and almost Naomi does it on purpose, and then reveals that it was her that attacked Jade. Like,
isn't that what they did with Lita and
that is what happened with Lita and Trish and Becky.
Yeah.
Lita got attacked.
True.
Trish came in to help defend the titles with Becky, and then Trish turned on Becky. Yeah. So since we're here, let me mention this. There's actually precedence for this. And the precedence for this is when Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville won the tag team championships. Then Sonya Deville got injured. Well, then instead of Chelsea relinquishing, she picked a new partner, which was Piper Niven. And they went on to defend the tag team championship. So for me, I think since that is very recent memory and the last time something happened with the tag team championships, Bianca should be given the opportunity to choose a tag team partner. Kind of makes sense that she would go with Naomi as they represent the big three. Naomi finally gets a championship, ironically, the same championship she relinquished when she came back. And you move forward. I just don't like the idea that and I mean, think about this. Think about the rift that potentially causes with Naomi, Bianca, and Bailey. Since Bailey's like, Naomi, you're my girl, like, you know, and then we've got all of these other championships that are out there. I think there are still some great possibilities for things that they can do with this without just automatically taking that title from Bianca Belair. And so I hope that they look at the precedence that was set just a couple of years ago. It wasn't all that long ago when things happened with Chelsea and Sonya and Piper. Hopefully they'll give Bianca that opportunity and let Bianca choose Naomi as her tag team partner, potentially.
And I think it helps and will build, or it gives more chance to build a lot more, create new storylines or to add to current storylines, all the rest of it. So for me, I don't want to see Bianca lose the championships. If she does, I don't think it hurts her or anyone else, but it does in terms of the championship itself.
Yes,
I think it could kind of, it tarnishes that a little bit, as you said, Max, about not having that happy ending or not carrying on the momentum or losing it to credible opponents or all that kind of stuff. So I think the best thing would definitely be for Bianca to continue holding the championship but just find a new partner. Again, depending on who that person is, the way that partnership goes, that could set up something with a returning Jade and Bianca. You never know. Could go anywhere. So I think it would be better that she keeps it. I don't want to see it be relinquished at all, but you just don't know. It could go either way. Speaking of Bianca, I want to throw this one in here really quickly. Montez Ford had a match with Tommaso Ciampa on SmackDown. Can I just say the ending of that match was a masterclass? I just think it was just one of those things where you're like, how did that just happen?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was genius. It was absolute genius. We then saw, obviously, Tommaso Ciampa then attacked Montez. The Whole City Machine Guns come out. Johnny Gargano comes out. Angelo Dawkins comes out. We're getting this whole, triple threat for the tag team, but we've added this whole thing of, Ciampa and Gargano. But we're seeing, and we have seen for the last 2 or 3 weeks now, this much more aggressive side of the Street Profits. Namely Angelo Dawkins in terms of, the physicalities. Is that something that needs to continue going forward? And is this, here's my question, is this whole triple threat tag team thing going to be a good thing for the Street Profits or for one of the other two teams? Are the Street Profits just kind of like ending up in a storyline for the benefit of the other two teams?
What I will say is that Motor City Machine Gun, and I mean this very, very respectfully, they're not like big time stars. And that might just be a lack of understanding of where they've come from and what they've done by the live audience. I don't know, but in my opinion, since they've arrived, like that rabid nature of them showing up, their entrance music hitting, it hasn't been there. Granted, when they get into the ring, they're magicians, they know what they're doing, they're brilliant and stuff like that. But just that, I'm in the presence of a star thing, I don't think has quite connected. And I'm sure WWE knew this, and I feel like bringing them in, putting the titles on them immediately was a move to help the rest of this division. Like they are going to be the elder statesmen, the experienced guys, the fantastic wrestlers that are going to help us build this division and get over some of these other talents in a more, the character aspect and stuff like that. The Street Profits, we know they've wanted to do something with these guys for a minute with Bobby Lashley stuff that fell flat eventually and stuff. But DIY especially have been screaming out for something. And now they have it. And, whether like what I'm saying in regards to Motor City Machine Guns or whatever being stars or not is relevant. Like right now, they have elevated in the story they're involved in. They've elevated the Street Profits. They've elevated DIY, so it's working. So yeah, I just think it's more so now for the men involved around Motor City Machine Gun, from Johnny Gargano and Ciampa and Montez Ford and Dawkins, to now grab the brass ring, as they say. Who can really make themselves stand out. And like you said, immediately Dawkins is more of the aggressive one of these two. You can see on the other side, Ciampa is definitely just losing his head every time, sort of thing. I think it's a good story so far, but it's just really now, we want to see the Street Profits profit from this situation.
Right.
Like, so it's really now, how can they go on? And for me, the title is not enough. I want to see a change in persona, and that followed through and stuff. So but right now I think we're in a good space with the story being told between all of them. I mean, before this, what were any of them really doing?
Very true. Gerard, my question to you on this as well is, we've been clamoring and begging for a Montez Ford singles run. We've had this whole thing, about a month or two ago about WWE not, giving enough time, or being questioned about the amount of time or lack of time that they're giving to Black Stars. Them not showing, being on paper on the PLEs for a very long time and all the rest of it. Is this the start of that, or was this literally just, a grudge match for the tag team division?
I think multiple things can be true at the same time. I don't know that this is a specific intentional effort to address that, as much as it is the opportunity to pull the trigger on giving something fresh for the Street Profits and working in the division as well. If you think about it, they got some shine. B-Fab is getting shine. There's a number of people. I mean, DIY is getting shine. We're actually also seeing the rise of NXT Ciampa at this point, right? So there are a lot of people that are benefiting from these moves that are being made in this tag team division. I don't know that it has to be the answer to, putting more Black male single stars on PLEs. In order to do that, there has to be a story that becomes worthy of being on the PLE.
For sure.
So if you're giving us a story right now, we'll take the story. And we can make the argument that the story was really propagated by great promos and passion from the Street Profits. Those promos went straight to the internet. They didn't make their way to TV. And they've been doing that work. B-Fab's been doing that work. So I don't know that this is their answer to that, nor if they had to answer it. I think they've had these people, they've been waiting for the solo push. They've been waiting for, what are we going to do with the Street Profits? They've been waiting for, what are we going to do with DIY? Because if we're honest, the tag division was kind of held in limbo with the Bloodline holding the tag titles. Now that that's not there, we can build a full tag division while simultaneously creating interest in single stars. That's a unique skill that they have done. And we're now just as interested at the potential of DIY breaking up as we are of singles runs for the Street Profits, as well as tag runs for DIY and the Street Profits. That's actually really brilliant.
Right. And I think for me, that's what it is, more to do with answering singular questions,
Sure.
and certain topics and whatnot. I'm not trying to get excited about the possibility of Montez Ford being a single star within this whole storyline at the moment, because I'm seeing it, more to do with it being the tag team division, bringing the Street Profits back in, back to the top of their game and all that kind of stuff, while doing the same thing for Ciampa, while doing whatever they need to do to, to bring through the Motor City Machine Guns, and all of that as well. So, I'm not trying to get overly excited or expecting, should I say, overly expectant of a singles run from Montez Ford, or even a breakup of DIY or anything like that for now. I do expect this to be a kind of a long-term thing for everyone involved, whether it continues to be with those three teams or, their own separate issues and stuff like that. But again, as you said, Gerard, it's a unique skill to be in a position where we're excited both for the singular and the teams at the same time, with the possibilities being able to go here, there, and everywhere. So it's gonna. I think it would work out nicely. I want to turn our attentions over to AEW now. We were talking about black stars in WWE being underutilized and whatever else, but right now, it kind of feels as though AEW is like the Atlanta of pro wrestling.
Wow.
It's where all the black people are.
Wow. As one living in Atlanta, I resemble that remark. Yeah.
I know.
Wow.
I know.
Wow. That's great. That's great.
We saw Bobby Lashley make his pay-per-view debut. I'm going to throw this in really quickly. I was a little upset they actually made an in-ring debut like a few days before.
Yeah.
That was a little upsetting. I wanted the debut to be at the pay-per-view. But anyway, he had a match with, of course, the former AEW world champion, Swerve Strickland. Phenomenal match. Great showing by both men. Both of them took each other to the wire. But the finish, again, another great finish for me, in the sense where Bobby Lashley basically choked out Swerve. We don't see that happen often at all, but to see that happen, I think it showed their intentions with Bobby Lashley, the way that they're intended to showcase him, what kind of wrestler he is, how powerful, dangerous, and brutal he is and can be. The interesting part more so came at the post-show scrum, Full Gear. Bobby Lashley said a few words that were interesting, or remarks that were interesting. Gerard, just remind us of some of those things and what, some of the things that he said that have caused some conversations within the IWC.
Sure. He was asked during the media scrum how he felt about wrestling a former black world champion, and how he feels in terms of pursuing and being a black champion. And he said that he's tired of the phrase black champions. He says, when you come over to AEW and so many people of color are holding championships, they're just champions. And to his credit, he has consistently said that even when he was WWE world champion, he was saying that, I'd really like for us to not refer to people as black champions, just refer to us as champions. I think one of the reasons why that has caused a lot of questions is it is still not normal in our culture, particularly in the pro wrestling space. It's not normal to have black world champions. It's not normal to have black champions, period. So I do think that there is a stress on that, because black wrestlers, black culture is still by volume the minority in this country. and in the pro wrestling industry. It's growing for sure, but it is not the majority, and it is not a regular thing to do that. I almost said something, but I caught myself. I think sometimes what happens, one of the reasons I understand why some people don't want that distinction. They want to just be known as a great champion, not a great black this, not a great black that. They just want to be known as a great champion. I think one of the things that you have to understand is you can't just be called a great champion when you are the first at something. For instance, it was just last year. I had to think, was it last year? No, it was this year. When Swerve became the first black AEW World Champion. That's this year, 2024. A brand new company. Took them 5 years to make that move and make that call. So I think it actually would be insulting to Swerve to not acknowledge him as the first black AEW World Champion, and whatever other black star wins that title, acknowledging them at the same. We can't normalize it until it becomes normal.
Very true.
It's not possible. So if there's only been one of something, it's not normal yet.
It's not.
It's not normal. You can't consider War Games at Survivor Series normal when it's only happened twice. It's not normal. And so I think in Bobby Lashley's attempt to not wear the label of black champion, he's missing the larger picture here. And the larger picture is it will be normal when there are multiple companies that have black world champions. And it happens so regularly that you have to stop. For instance, here's a perfect example. We no longer talk about women main eventing Monday Night Raw because it happens so regularly now on WWE television that we don't sit back and go, well, last night Bianca Belair and Nia Jax was the 30th main event on Monday Night Raw. We don't have to count that high. Because it's happened, and it's not just happening on Raw, it's happening on NXT, it's happening on SmackDown, to the point where now seeing women in the main event doesn't raise a flag like, whoa, this is a special event. It is now two great wrestlers, a great story in the main event. It takes time. It was WrestleMania 35 that we had our first women's main event at a WrestleMania. It was back in the 2000s when we had our first women's main event on Monday Night Raw. It takes something happening repeatedly for it to be normalized. We are not at the space, whether he likes it or not, whether he wants to talk about it or not, we are not at the space where we have normalized having black world champions as frequently as we have normalized having women's main events.
True. I think for me, the other side to this, though, is also, I don't know who asked the question, what the reporter looks like, what their background is, all that kind of stuff. But I do feel as though that whole black champion thing and pretencing the champion with black can kind of almost demean that person as a champion. So I think that's exactly what I think for me, that's what Lashley's saying. So it's not necessarily normalizing the term and because it should be normal or because he wants it to be normal and he's waiting for it to be normal. It's kind of more so to do with, right, you're saying Swerve is a former black champion, you're saying that I'm a black champion, but you don't say that Kenny Omega is a Canadian champion. You just say champion. Why is it when an Adam Page or an MJF or a Will Ospreay wins a championship, you don't say British champion for Ospreay. You don't say Jewish champion for MJF. You just say champion. So I think for me, it's that part of kind of almost demeaning their success that I feel that Bobby Lashley's hearing. But I completely agree with what you're saying about something can't be normalized until it becomes regular. So
Now,
for us, we celebrate the black champion thing, and we will say
sure.
black champion because it makes us feel better that we're getting something, we're celebrating the success. But I think in other circles or non-black circles, it can feel as though that's the crux, that's the anchor that they're putting on us. So it's a difficult one to address.
There's an interesting interview. I think it might be on YouTube. I know I saw it on WWE programming that was done where, and this is interesting, and I think it might have even happened during Black History Month. Don't quote me on it, but I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere, where Byron Saxton did an interview with Kofi Kingston, Big E, and Bobby Lashley, the last 3 black WWE champions.
Right.
And in this interview, he's talking about, all of this. And once again, that's where Bobby Lashley talks about this whole normalizing. I'm tired of hearing it. So it's been a consistent thing for Bobby Lashley, no matter who's asking the question, which is why I feel the way I feel about what he's saying. And again, I think, sometimes you don't want to hear that, and there are other reasons, which we'll talk about it at some other point. But I think we won't be able to get away from that label until it really is both normal and frequent. Because we haven't had a black WWE champion since Big E.
And that's a long time. That's a long time.
So consider that.
How long ago was that? 2 years?
2001. 2001, or excuse me, 2021.
2021.
So that's 3 years.
Yeah, so. Yeah. It feels like forever. That's crazy. Mex, what are your thoughts in terms of what Lashley is saying, and just how this term is used or can be used in different ways?
So my initial thoughts are what I will always say. I don't know why we continue to have post pay-per-view,
right.
Whatever they want to call this.
Yeah.
Like I always say, nobody comes off looking good in this. The lady that asked the question was Kate. She works for Fightful. She makes good content. Her question for me was a fair question. However, watching it live, like I think maybe a better question in hindsight would have just been if she had to. Okay, the best question of all would have just been: you have just pinned former AEW champion Swerve Strickland. What do you want to go on and do now?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Beginning and end.
Yeah, of course.
She threw in there: you have pinned former black AEW champion Swerve Strickland, blah blah blah, and went on. She said, there's so many other black champions here in AEW, like Mercedes is a black champion in Private Party. It's as if someone had paid her to say, how many times could you fit black into your question? And I don't know whether that's to, like you said, we know right now AEW is thriving when it comes to giving black talents a platform and letting them go on to that high, belt level success at whatever stage it is. We've seen it with the women, we've seen it with the men. WWE are having their own struggles with getting black males alone on pay-per-views, PLEs. So my issue more with the question was it seemed very, I don't know, am I going to take shots at WWE with saying this? It seemed very planned and, like I said, you could have just said you've just pinned a former world champion on your second outing in the company. For me, it has the exact same, power. But she made a point about saying black world champion, black champions in AEW, listing the other black champions at AEW. And, it for someone like Lashley, again, that like we've said, has said on a multitude of occasions, I'm done with this particular phrasing. Again, if you're someone that's done their homework going into these post-show press conferences, you would know that. So look how MVP turned around and said, "Oh, you're not answering any questions from the Observer." Next,
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if Bobby Lashley gave her a response like that? Like, I've answered this question so many times. I'm not answering it again. Next.
Mm-hmm.
You lot all turn around now and say Bobby Lashley's rude.
Right.
Like, really and truly, whether he wants that responsibility of talking about it or being labeled as a black champion or not, like, I feel in that instance, she was looking for some type of headline or looking to get one over on WWE or looking for something more than just you've pinned a former world champion, because it was right there. You could have just said that. So, and this is a man that has been a world champion in TNA. He's been a 2-time champion in WWE. Like, this is really light to him. Like, of course, if I could be a world champion in this place, like, you know, come on. Like, I don't know. I just felt the question had a bit more gravitas to it than meets the eye. And it feels a bit ungenuine in the sense of how the question was asked. And like I said, black was just like the buzzword, every other word she said. So that was more my annoyance with the whole thing. But yeah, it's one of them ones where ultimately I'm happy just where they were on the card. Those two men, Swerve and Bobby, they put on a really good match. One of seemingly the shorter matches on the card, but I preferred it. I thought it just worked out well. The match worked well, and yeah, those guys in the press conference, Bobby and MVP and Shelton, were brilliant. Yeah, it's just the curse of these post-show press conferences, man. I just don't think that anyone knows what it is. But the minute they sit down and that camera turns on, I don't know if anyone knows, am I doing this in character? I'm not. Am I asking this as a fan or a journalist? I just think no one has a clue of what's happening in that place.
And here's the crazy thing, like, even with the way the question was asked and all the rest of it, and I said what I said about, you know, some people hearing black this, black that, and kind of, you know, being an anchor or demeaning whatever success that that you've just achieved. But I also feel as though there's a part of this and the way this question was asked, not just in the negative sense, in the way it was constructed, and it felt very much constructed in a negative sense, but almost to a point in a almost positive way, almost kind of like clamoring to the person that she was speaking to, thinking her saying or pushing the fact that there are so many black champions and you've just beaten a former black champion, you could be the next black champion, thinking that was a positive thing to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yet Bobby doesn't hear that. Someone else may have. Someone else may not have had an issue with saying what, you know, in her asking the question the way she did, and probably would have jumped on it and said, yes, I love the fact that there are so many people that are represented right now. And I can imagine the Bianca Belair like responding in that way. You know what I mean? I love that there's so much representation here at the moment, and this, and yes, Swerve is great, and he was the first black so-and-so, and I want to be the next black, and I want to take the company, I want to help these black people, Bobby just didn't hear that. He's just hearing what he's been hearing for however long. And, you know, maybe based on, you know, I'm sure based on personal experiences and all this kind of stuff, he's like, let's stop doing this whole black thing. Because even MVP has said it so many times about the Hurt Business back in WWE. They've said it now about the Hurt Syndicate, is the fact that this was never supposed to be a black thing per se. But I'm sure, yes, they're glad that they are 3 black men who are doing great things, but it was more so to be about just being 3 men who are great. It's kind of trying to come away from the negative energy of black, because before the Hurt Business, there was the New Day, and the New Day would get ripped almost every week for doing the whole shucking and jiving and dancing for the cameras and all that kind of stuff, and being a stereotypical black act. Whereas, you know, for so many years, you know, we saw the likes of the Hurt Business. At that time, we saw what Jonathan Gresham was doing in ROH as kind of like, you know, he wasn't a black gimmick. He was just literally a great wrestler who happens to be black. So I think for them, MVP, the Hurt Syndicate, Bobby Lashley, I think for them, they're looking at it in that respect. In no way do I think, you know, that they're trying to demean any type of, the black culture or whatever it is. I don't think it's anything like that at all. It really is just them probably on this whole movement of trying to get to a place where this thing is normalized. But as you said, Gerard, I think they need to also remember that until it happens multiple times, it won't and can't be. So it's interesting. It's an interesting thing. I see both sides of the coin, and I see what these guys are trying to do and trying to say. But again, I think it definitely goes back to actually what Mex was saying about this whole post-show scrum media thing and all the rest of it. Like it's just all over the place. It's just all over the place in many ways for everyone, whether that's the press, whether that's the talent. It can just go so left so many times and very easily, and very much unintentionally as well. And I think that's the worrying part. It is that it's that, like, you just don't know. It's just too unpredictable, too unsafe, and it can go all over the place. Before our time is done, our time's short, very, very short. We're still keeping with the whole full gear, but we're going to move into what all the news that we found out about the Continental Classic as well. I'm going to mention this very quickly. Ricochet isn't the AEW International Champion.
Nope, he's not.
Even though he said last week he wants to carry. All right.
Ricochet said he wants to carry the company. Ricochet said he wants to carry the company on his back, right? On his back. He had his match for Full Gear announced on social media, and then he had possibly the worst match on the card.
And I have a spoiler for you. I know you said Ricochet is not the AEW International Champion. Spoiler alert, he will not be the AEW Continental Champion either.
Let's go. Let's
this
talk
takes
about
us
it.
to what we said, maybe a week, 2 weeks ago now, that he's going to have all of these chances, including an IWGP Heavyweight Championship match on the 5th of January. He's going to lose them all in a row.
Correct.
And then where are we going to be? Mr. I want to carry companies on my back. Where are we going to be?
I think he should carry a mask on his face and just call himself Prince Puma again.
Who was I listening to? Someone said this. I can't remember, but yeah, I've heard this week as well. Not a bad
idea. Talking about that Continental Classic very quickly, we see that Ricochet is in there, as well as Shelton Benjamin. I can't remember who's on what side again now. Shelton's on the sides. Yeah, they're on opposite sides. I think Shelton's on the blue one.
Yeah,
I believe. I did actually have it. Yeah. So both men are going to be competing. We'll also see the likes of new TNT champion Daniel Garcia, the Beast Mortos. We're going to see what's his face? I was going to say Cesaro. What the hell?
Claudio Castagnoli.
Claudio Castagnoli, of course. Will Ospreay's involved. And a host of others. I'm sure Gerard's gonna let us know exactly.
Yep, I got you in a second.
Who's gonna be in? I had it, but I don't know what
I had it up too, but don't worry, I got it. Don't you worry.
On the gold side, we're gonna get Ricochet and Will Ospreay again.
Yes, we are. The possibilities of some of these matches. Oh my gosh. Obviously. We've got Okada, who is the Continental Champion. I believe him and Shelton are on the same side. Go for it.
Yeah, I've got it for you. So on the Gold League, we have Darby Allin, Claudio Castagnoli, Will Ospreay, Ricochet, Brody King, and Juice Robinson. And then in the Blue League, we have Kazuchika Okada, the defending champion, Kyle Fletcher, Daniel Garcia, Mark Briscoe, Shelton Benjamin, and the Beast Mortos.
Out of everyone that's in both sides, I don't want to be negative, but I have to be. I'll just throw it in there. The only person I'm kind of like, why, is Mark Briscoe. I'll be honest. I just don't.
He was in it last year as well, wasn't
he?
Yeah,
he was. Yeah. I just don't feel as though.
So that's how I felt last year, and he had some of the best, or should I say, most fun performances
he did
last year.
Of course.
But yes,
I mean.
I guess you need someone in there that can just take a pin.
Mm-mm-mm.
So
like he did last year. Yeah.
yeah, took 6 of them. Also,
Well,
so
I can tell you who I think is going to be in the finals.
go on.
Go for it.
I think representing the gold side, it's going to be Will Ospreay, and on the blue side, it's going to be Kazuchika Okada. It's going to be Okada and Ospreay in the finals.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That would make a lot of sense. That would make a lot of sense for sure.
And
for sure.
the finals at World's End.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. But what about this whole thing with the possibility of Takeshita and Okada? How does that fit in, or does it happen afterwards, or what's
Must
that?
be afterwards now because
It
Takesha's
must
not
be
even
because
in
Takesha's
the
not in the tournament.
thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think is a tragedy. How do you not have?
Yeah, I
Takeshita
feel
in this
that's
tournament?
weird.
Massive
When you've got the TNT champion in there, but not you don't. You
Even
don't
what does
think
that
about
say?
putting in
The
international champion?
minute Daniel Garcia wins the TNT title, oh yeah, I'm going to be in the Continental Classic.
For
So the
what?
TNT title's not enough for you.
That's the Will Ospreay syndrome.
Yeah,
It's the Ospreay
Weird.
syndrome.
Yeah, there's no point in being in there as the TNT champion. Like, what is he? I mean, obviously he's gonna gain something if he wins, but at the same time, what is he gain? Why?
like if Takeshita, obviously as the international champion, had been very much like, I've beaten all of these guys, I need something else to do, put me in the tournament. Okay, cool. And even then, I would like to see them use that as a means to, just put those two titles together and stop kidding everyone with international and continental and just call the damn thing the intercontinental title. Like, do it. Like,
well, here's the funny part. You remember last year they made such a big deal about this being the Triple Crown situation where you had the Ring of Honor, the IWGP Strong, and then this Continental Classic. So the whole idea of a Triple Crown just doesn't exist anymore, I guess, because you only have one champion in there now. Well, two technically, with the addition of the TNT champion. But it's like, why? So yeah,
and apparently is do we still have this whole thing of, obviously with Okada being the Continental champion? Is he defending his championship every time he wrestles? Because obviously we had that with
that's true.
Eddie Kingston, but he was and he wasn't.
He wasn't. I think it'll result in whoever the winner is will be the Continental champion.
Obviously,
so
of course.
It's in theory. This is why he's going to make it to the finals.
So then does it mean that Daniel Garcia's TNT championship won't be on the line at all then?
Probably
not.
Okay. Which makes more sense.
Unless he gets frisky during the tournament and says, "Yeah, this match is for the TNT title," and then he wins it, wins a couple of matches.
Right.
But yeah, otherwise, I don't think he'll put it on the line.
Yeah. It's all a lot, but the exciting part definitely is a match. Almost every match that Shelton Benjamin's gonna have.
Right.
Shelton versus Okada. Shelton versus Carl Fletcher. Who else is in his
the Beast Mortos?
That's gonna be great.
Mark Briscoe. That's actually going to be really.
That's
going
to be quite fun, I'm sure.
Yeah, and then now I hope Daniel Garcia puts the TNT title on the line in that match, and then Benjamin walks out with the TNT title. That would be really nice.
That would be phenomenal.
That'd be really nice.
I don't see it happening, but that would be phenomenal.
Right.
I'd love to see that. But even that, just that exchange between those two is going to be great. And still, the possibility of the matches that Ricochet will have in his league is massive as well.
Yeah.
But this whole thing of, as we said, as we started talking about this topic specifically, of Ricochet making the statement that he did, less than a week later, losing the opportunity that he had. We don't see him necessarily being a favorite in this tournament. He might go far. He might have great matches. He might have a couple of strong wins over a couple of strong opponents. He's still up until Full Gear. He was undefeated in the singles competition since joining AEW as well. So he kind of still has that, but I again, neither of us see him kind of getting to the final or becoming champion. He then has the match against Zack Sabre Jr. On January 5th. That could possibly go anywhere. I don't know what's happening with Zack Sabre Jr. and New Japan. I don't follow it enough to kind of have enough of an opinion. But at the same time, I know he's a very recent champion, so I don't necessarily see Ricochet walking away as champion. But it's still a possibility given the notoriety that Ricochet had in Japan. So again, not impossible, but I don't think it's not the forefront of my mind thinking, yep, he's going to walk out as champ. So
if Zack Sabre Jr. catches an injury in that match and they are forced to do it, that is the only way Ricochet ends that match as champion. The investment in Zack Sabre Jr. to get to this point has been so much. You know, they wanted to crown him champion at Wrestle Kingdom. He wanted to walk into Royal Quest in London 2 months ago as champion. So they've done it beforehand. They've let him call that shot so he can walk into London as the IWGP champion. He's going to go to Wrestle Kingdom and defend it. And then he's going to walk into his match with Ricochet the next night at Wrestle Dynasty and defend it. Like I said, there's a 1% botch here, and that's him getting injured. Otherwise, that is the champion going forward. Right. It's a great spot for Ricochet. It's going to probably main event on the night, which is a great spot.
Oh, yeah, more than likely. It's a spot, of course.
This is it. It's just, by the time we finish counting up, Full Gear championship match and a loss, World's End, he may not even make it to the final for this tournament. And then this situation in January, this is the best part of 3 consecutive months. You've ended each month with championship opportunity and nothing. So,
well, add a 4th one, because remember, it was the 5-year Dynamite anniversary where he had a shot at the international title against Will Ospreay.
Oh yeah, October. Yeah. So yeah,
of course.
Yeah. Right. I mean, spot, I guess, if you want to look at the silver lining, but yeah.
And that's the thing. It's great it's very similar to the whole Jey Uso argument before it became the actual one the Intercontinental Championship. If it wasn't for the popularity level and his momentum in that respect, people were questioning. I remember that being a question on a wrestling's episode as well. Why are we calling him main event when he's main eventing but losing every single time? You know what I mean? So that's the difficulty of it, man. When it comes down to it, when it comes to even when we talk about the Jet Power 10 ranking, or even bigger, the PWI 500, it would be great for someone to have title opportunities over and over again, but unless you're winning those titles, you're not even going to make top 50.
Yeah.
If you're losing all the time, because at the end of the day, opportunities are great, but if you're not taking them, it eventually means nothing.
Right.
Probably even makes you look worse. Probably makes you look worse.
What was a disappointing thing from the weekend was the match he had with Takeshita. And granted, it was always going to be extremely hard to follow, as well as have stylistically a similar match as Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher had just before you. But then that's when you might have to make the call, well, we clearly didn't really plan on this match being on the pay-per-view anyway, so let's just not have it. One or the other. You've already announced Kyle Fletcher, Will Ospreay. You've then rushed to announce Ricochet Takeshita on social media. You've then made it follow Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay.
That's crazy.
And these guys then haven't really delivered in the ring, which is a shame on their part, because both of them you would expect way more. The match was everyone's come out and said the match was fine. The match was 3 out of 5, but everyone saying that knows this match should have been at least 5 out of 5 stars, like with the guys involved. So even with the 3 out of 5, you might say that's bog standard. It's a TV main event. We know we can expect so much more from these guys. So yeah, it's just, maybe that's not their decision. Maybe that's the decision of the decision makers backstage. But it's just misguided and has left them not looking the best.
And here's the thing, there seems to be this argument quite often over the last few weeks about championships being championship matches happening on weekly TV and all that kind of stuff. For me, that match could have easily and probably should have been tomorrow's main event on Dynamite.
That
would have been fine. absolutely fine. It would have something for people to go to Dynamite to watch. You don't have to worry about it following any other match and all the rest of it. There would have been, you could have done something a bit more in terms of the build-up or the way it was announced as well, possibly. You know, and then just let them go at it for the 15-20 minutes that you have at the end of that show. I think that would have been absolutely fine, but they've decided to do the way they've done it. And yeah, we got what we got and the outcome that we got. I don't think I expected any other outcome anyway, regardless of how it was done and whatnot. But I think all those other factors kind of just made it look a lot worse than it needed to, basically. And that's that. With all that said, that is that for this show as well. You have been watching WrstlXtra on the WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see us every single week. Also, you can see Mex put out all of his reactions to WWE, AEW, everything else in between, as well as his exclusive interviews with different superstars across the globe. You can also find Mex on the Wrestling's YouTube channel. They've got a new look. They're putting out the promos. I'm like, boys, come on. Give someone else a piece of the pie. No, it looks fantastic. It all looks fantastic. I'm loving it. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well to see their show every single week, as well as their extra content that they put out every single week as well. You can also find Mex on Gorilla Position, WWE GP, on the YouTubes and all socials. Also find Mex himself putting out all of his stuff on the socials. WrestleManiac.uk on Instagram, WrestleManiac UK on X. You can find this man, Gerard Bonner. Say his name, he will appear. Say it 3 times, he will appear like Beetlejuice. Bonafide. Find him on all things, all socials. Just type in the word Bonafide, you'll find him. You can also find him on his own show, The Faction Show, as well as WWT Live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can also find this man doing all of his commentary, broadcasting, and all the rest for Our Share Wrestling. That anniversary show is looking amazing. Can't wait for that. It's
going to be special.
All Caribbean Wrestling, Nightmare Factory, Southern Honor Wrestling, IWE, Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling. Did I miss anything out?
You got it all.
I did. Love it. But you can also you can find me in the one place you need to find me. That is Black Wrestling Alliance on Instagram. Guys, we will see you again next time.